Today we're going to work with some of our BJP data and show you how we can really use a spreadsheet to help make our lives easier. And so if you look at our data, we have data in rows 2 through 25, and we have a header row. We have gender of who went, grade, whether permission slip is there or not, and dollars. Okay, whether it came as cash or check. Okay, so let's start with our new function, new formula called a countif. So we're going to say equals countif. So we're going to count if, and you'll see when I specify the range that we're looking at. So it'll be C2, but we want to do C $2, and you'll see why in a minute. C $2, C $25, comma, if we see an F there. So we're counting how many girls there are. Count if C $2, colon, C $25, F. It's a girl. Okay? And we find that there's 10 girls. Okay? Now, we're going to copy this down. Now you might say, well, why do I need the $? So it's C2, C25. Look what happens if we don't put the $? in. So we go down and we get 9 girls. Well, we're trying to count boys anyway, but why did it change to 9? Well, if you look at it, the range changed to C3, C26, and we leave out that first entry. Okay, because the spreadsheet tends to think as you move down, you're gonna change by 1. Okay, but that's not the case for us. We want to keep that. So we go back to our first formula and we put in that $. So we say we want to keep, as we propagate this formula, as we copy the formula, we want to keep number 2, number 25, 2 through 25. Okay, so now we look at this and we copy that formula down. And when we look at it, we say, oh, great, it's still 2 through 25, but now we want to look for an M. So we look for an M, and we say, great, we've got 14 boys, 10 girls and 14 boys. Now, next, we're going to look over in D column. But we can still copy, so what I really want to emphasize to you is you want to copy as much as possible. Every time you type, you can make a mistake. Okay, so why do we get 14? Because we're still looking in C, but we're going to change that to D, D2 to D25, and instead of looking for F or M, we're going to look for 4, 5, or 6. So we look for 4. Okay? So here's the range we're looking in. We're looking for 4. We're going to count it only if we find a 4. So we say, great, 11 fourth graders. What a great showing. Now let's copy that down to the other, to 5th and 6th. Well, it's good to copy, but we have to change a little bit. But note how we only have to change the 4 to a 5. Much less likely to have a mistake because we only are changing that one little thing. Now we go down, see how it took us down to the one across from the 6. So we're going to change that 4 to a 6. Okay, we're not typing very much. That's the key. So we look and let's just see if it makes sense. Always see if it makes sense. Right? We're going to make a lot of mistakes when we do things like this. So we have 10 plus 14, 24. 11 plus 5 is 16. 16 plus 8 is 24. Okay. Now we're going to use something that's like the countif. It's like the countif, but it's going to use 2 columns. So it's going to check. So you're going to go along, check, check, check. If it sees cash, it's going to count it. If it sees cash again, it's going to add that. So at this point, it should say $240 from cash. Up here, it sees a third one from cash. It's going to add 120 to the 240. That is using the sumif. So it says, I'm going to add to the sum if something happens. So we're going to look first in, we're going to be checking G $2 colon G $25. So we're checking there. We're checking for cash. If we find cash, we're going to then add up what's in F from 2 to F from 25. Okay, so let's just go over that formula. So sumif, S-U-M-I-F, sum if. I'm going to add to my sum. I'm going to look in G2 to G25. So I'm going to look in G, and I'm going to go along. I'm not going to do anything till I find cash. So in row 10, I see cash. I say $120. I'm going to add that to my total. It's a running total, right? The next one, I'm going to add another 120. Every time I find cash, I'm going to look what's in F2 to F25. So it looks good. So we say, oh, from cash, we got 840. So we say that looks like a good formula. I copy it down. Okay, why do I get 840 again? Well, because I'm still looking for cash, but I want to change that to say, okay, that was great for cash, but now what did I get for checks? I got 2040. Now, how would we find the number going? Well, we could just take our same formula again, but maybe we could say, let's look at the name cat. So the name, so we're back to doing a countif. So we go to our sumif. So see how I say, okay, well, I'll just work with that countif. Okay. And instead of G2, I'll look at A2. How about A2 to A25? Okay, and that's all I'm looking for is, oh, but now I don't even care if it's countif. I say, and this is a new one to you, count A. So that just means if it's not a blank. Okay, so just count how many rows are there that aren't blank from 2 to 25. Okay, so there it is, C-O-U-N-T-A, count A. Okay, so there's 24. Now let's say I'm trying to keep track of who hasn't turned in a permission slip. Okay, so I'll say, okay, I'll just, for an example, I'll take out some of these X's for permission slips. So that's in E. Okay, so we're going to use that count A again, but in column E. So I copy it down, okay, and I say count A, and let's go to E to E25. And what will this count? This will count the number of X's. Okay, so E2 to E25. Okay, and so then we're looking and say, well, how come it counted all that? Well, it turns out that, and you'll see this once in a while, is that there were still blanks in it. So now you see as I go through and I delete whatever's in there, and we're down to 19. And see if that makes sense. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 missing slots. So that's a problem. Count A looks and says, is it empty? And if there's a blank in there, it's not empty. So you have to be careful with that. Now, is this what we want, 19 missing slips? No. Okay. So what we want is the number going minus the number of slips. The number of X's will give us the missing. Okay, so watch up here. So we're going to change the formula and we're going to say the number going, well, the number going is I14. So the number in I14 minus the count of X's will give us who hasn't done it yet. Okay, and so we have 5 missing slips. Now you think, well, that's obvious, I can add up. But remember, at first, there's no slips in here. So at first, okay, so actually, what I'm going to do is I'll delete all the values in here from 2 to 25. Okay, so you go to edit and you say delete values. Okay, so missing slips 24. Okay, that's what I start out with. And then let's say that some kind parents send in some slips. And see how it keeps a running track. So over here, if you take a look, as I add an X, so right now we're at 13, I add another X, it's down to 12. It's very handy for keeping track of things coming in. All right. So give that a try. That should keep you going.